I'm so curious what was going through your mind when you heard Jamie Dimon's response.
Look, when Jamie Dimon and I are in exactly the same place, it's because we have a serious problem in this country.
JP Morgan says it has reached an agreement in principle to settle the Jeffrey Epstein sex predator litigation with the U.S. Virgin Islands with a payout of $75 million. The settlement ends a bruising episode in which each side accused the other of enabling Jeffrey Epstein's abuses and led to a series of embarrassing disclosures of relationships that high-ranking bank officials at the time had with Epstein himself, including one former executive who frequented Epstein's private island.
And that is a part of the financial system is being used by terrorists, by drug traffickers, by rogue nations in order to launder money, move money through the system and finance their illegal activities.
Investigators in Philadelphia are searching a cargo ship captured in what's being called one of the biggest drug busts in U.S. history. Some 17 tons of cocaine has been recovered, worth more than $1 billion on the street. Officials tell CBS News there might be another 30 tons on board on top of what they've already found.
And when I asked the question, should the rules that apply to their banks, and by the way, also apply to stockbrokers and gold traders and credit card companies and credit unions.
Reporters is that this has been going on for about 8 years, in which these traders, they specifically were clearly kind of talking about JP Morgan here. I mean, the names that we have in the story do refer to these JP Morgan executives. They had been spoofing the market for the better part of 8 years, and silver, gold, platinum, palladium, I mean, all of the precious metals.
What I'm talking about is the part of the system that makes sure that banks are not being used for terrorist financing, for example.
The nation's biggest bank is facing a $13 billion fine this morning for its role in the mortgage meltdown. JP Morgan Chase negotiated the tentative settlement on civil charges with the Justice Department. The deal does not end a criminal probe, and it could set a new standard in cracking down on bank behavior.
There's a new threat out there. It's crypto, and it is being used for terrorist financing. It is being used for drug trafficking.
JP Morgan Chase has agreed to settle fraud charges for its role in the financial crisis. Under this settlement, the bank will now pay $154 million, just shy of that, which is actually less than what it earns in 1 week. The SEC says the company misled customers about risky mortgage investments. Last year, Goldman Sachs paid $550 million to settle similar charges.
North Korea is using it to pay for about half of its nuclear weapons program. We can't allow that to continue.
JP Morgan, Barclays, Citigroup are amongst 5 banks fined a combined total of 1.07 billion euros by European Union regulators for taking part in 2 cartels in the spot foreign exchange market for 11 currencies.
You know, we have something called the Bank Secrecy Act, which is how banks are required to monitor certain kinds of transactions that go through the system. It was written in the 1970s following 9/11. The law enforcement folks went back, looked at what had happened, figured out how the financing had made it through the system, and that's the last time that Congress updated the Bank Secrecy Act. What we need to do is we need to update it again because there's a new threat out there.
JP Morgan Chase has officially settled with federal authorities over criminal charges that the bank ignored warning signs of Bernard Madoff's $65 billion Ponzi scheme. The bank will pay $1.7 billion to settle the claims, which authorities say is the largest bank forfeiture in history and the largest penalty by the Department of Justice for a Bank Secrecy Act violation. That act requires banks to alert authorities about any suspicious activity.